We will take a minute for those outside to come back in and be seated. I did set my clock this morning by the CBC National Research Council official time signal. I don't know when they changed it from 10 dashes to 5. Maybe you can answer that, George. Why did they change the National Research Council time signal? Welcome back. Hello. Okay, good. In a minute or so, each councillor candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to address and present their responses to the topic of why I am running for council. They selected the order of speaking by lot prior to the start of our forum. Following their responses to the opening topic, each councillor candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to questions from our Prince Rupert media panel in several areas of interest to the community. There will not be an opportunity for rebuttal during the councillor candidates forum. There will be 3 questions asked and 3 chances to respond. The councillor forum will close with the councillor candidates given 1 minute responses to 1 final question prepared by the forum organizers. You can guess what that question will be now, probably. We will then bring the forum to a close. Our timekeepers, Shelley and Heather, will again keep track of the time remaining for each candidate. And a reminder, yellow card is 30 seconds, the pink card is 15 seconds, and when you hear ringy-dingy, your time is up. Again, all candidates are asked to respect the moderator and the signals from the timer at all times and to please not interrupt the other candidates. And once again, it's enough from me. I am pleased to introduce to you our 2014 Prince Rupert Civic Election councillor candidates. Ms. Anna Ashley. Mr. Barry Cunningham. Ms. Gina Garon. Mr. Nelson Kinney. Mr. Blair Miro. Mr. Wade Nish. Mr. Ray Peterson. Mr. Gurvinder Randhawa. And Ms. Joy Thorkelson. And to begin our forum, each candidate presenting their vision of or their answer to why I am running for council. First up, Mr. Ray Peterson.
Thank you. You all probably don't realize this, but there are like a lot of eyeballs out there. Anyway, my name is Ray, and I'm 43 years old, and I'm originally from the Lower Mainland in British Columbia. And I've spent many years in Asia, founding and building companies in the executive search and printing publishing industries. I made a conscious choice to move my center of gravity back to Canada, and I made a conscious choice to select Prince Rupert as my place for the future, a place to raise my family and grow my businesses. Prince Rupert is a city of the future in a country of the future. This is the next great port city. For me, the greatest challenge of my life will be to contribute to helping that dream come true, and I don't believe that that dream died when the Titanic sank. I would like to contribute to that, and I would like to be a councillor this year. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Barry Cunningham.
Hi, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, and also I'd like to acknowledge we're on Tsimshian territory. Over the next 4 years, our city and region anticipate an increase in population and capital investment by industry never seen before. As a city, we have many challenges ahead of us to ensure there is a balance between fiscal gain for the community and environmental stewardship, both which benefit present and future generations. If I'm elected back on council, I think being on council is a two-way street. I'm there, you have to give me input to make the decisions. I can't make those decisions without you. I'm approachable, as everyone knows. I'll stop and talk to anyone, anytime. And I'm not here to make any promises that the city cannot afford to keep and follow through on. What I do promise is to address all avenues available to ensure the prosperity and responsible stewardship of Prince Rupert continues to improve. Thank you, and make sure you vote on November 15th.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Nelson Kinney.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Prince Rupert is a wonderful city, and I'm very proud to represent it. But we have some serious stuff coming up, very serious. But I feel the most seriousness that we really have is housing. We need senior housing, we need assisted living housing, and homeless. And we're going to have to work all together as a council and mayor so we can have this for our city and have it a better place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinney. Ms. Anna Ashley.
Good evening. Amma Hupel. I would like to acknowledge that we are on Tsimshian territory. If re-elected, my two main goals will be addressing the infrastructure deficit along with the rest of council and planning and preparing for the renewed economic interest in our community. We have to have a comprehensive plan to replace our infrastructure in an affordable and sustainable way. Putting things off is not an option. We have to proactively plan for industrial development and make sure that Prince Rupert benefits and thrives from these opportunities. However, there has to be a workable balance between taking advantage of this interest and making sure our community is protected from any negative impacts. I believe the experience I've gained over the past 2 terms has given me knowledge and skills that will be a valuable asset on council as we go forward and continue to try and balance the needs of our community with our ability to pay for those needs. There are many challenges that still need to be faced, but I believe that working together, we can find our way through whatever comes our way. Meeting those challenges will mean a commitment to being open to changes in how we do things and finding creative solutions to problems. We need to engage our entire community in these discussions so we can solve these problems together. It's been an honor to have served you on City Council for the past 6 years, and on November 15th, I'm asking for your vote in order to continue to work towards these goals on your behalf. Thank you.
Mr. Blair Moreau.
Thanks so much for being here tonight, everyone. I'm loving the energy in the room. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Blair Moreau. I'm a lifelong Rupertite. I've spoken with hundreds of Rupertites over the last 2 months since I launched my campaign at the beginning of September. And what I've heard time and time again is that people are ready for change. The question becomes then, what sorts of change matter to us? We all want to see a Prince Rupert with more jobs, more recreation opportunities, and more affordable housing. We know we can be the economic and environmental leader of Northwest BC. But any vision like that without a plan is just a dream. It's time for us to focus on the small things and develop a plan that can get us to the future that we all want to see, one small step at a time. I'm running for City Council because I offer a unique insight, new passion, and a renewed focus on achieving results. What I stand for in this campaign is 3 priorities: enhancing the accountability of our elected officials through better communication, improving the efficiency of City Council by focusing on efforts on things within our jurisdiction, and developing a plan to grow our tax base by not only attracting new businesses to Prince Rupert, but also making it easier for businesses that are already here to operate. That's why I'm running for City Council. So thanks again so much for being here tonight, and I'm really looking forward to being a part of the conversation.
Mr. Gurvinder Randhawa.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Gurvinder Randhawa. I have been living in Prince Rupert with my family over 20 years. I believe it is important to train local people for the future, and on council I can enhance that concept to train local workers and prepare them to take advantage of the new industrial opportunities. I'm strongly committed to build mutually beneficial relationships with First Nations and neighboring communities. I'm dedicated to ensuring that small business and local economy is encouraged and supported by the council. I will work towards openness, transparency, and accountability, committed to develop a comprehensive plan with funding options to replace our aging infrastructure. I will work to attract new economic opportunities and encourage growth in already existing businesses. The most important thing that I have learned by sitting on different committees is that good governance requires teamwork and the ability to work towards a common goal. So on November 15th, I ask for your vote to make sure every citizen is heard and represented on council. Thank you.
Mr. Wade Nish.
Hello, for the people that don't know me, I'm a building contractor in town here. I have worked in other jobs. I had to survive to stay in town. I didn't leave town when the economy failed us. I think now is the time that, if you look back, I was reading some newspapers the other day that were from 1981, and everything in there was exactly what we're going through now, except for there was jobs then. The city was throwing money at everything because they had the money to throw at it, so everybody loved all the councilors because there was nothing bad to say about them. Now we have to take control of our spending. It's way beyond what we should be doing, but we also have to plan for the future. This is not about being right-wing or left-wing or union or non-union. This is about taking control of our destiny and doing what is right for our community and controlling spending and planning for the future. Every day I think 10 steps ahead on my job, and that's what I plan on doing for you. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a sucker for punishment, and I think that's a big thing for this job. Thank you.
Ms. Joy Thorkelson.
Simgiget, Sigamanana. Citizens of Prince Rupert, Joy Thorkelson, Duayu. Prince Rupert is on the cusp of change. Growth can range from the steady development we now have all the way to a boom environment if one or more LNG terminals locate here. Your next council has to plan for varying growth possibilities. Housing is a priority. Your new council will have to ensure that there are enough rent-controlled units and will have to have in-depth discussions with Rupertites on housing possibilities. The Tuck Inlet Exxon LNG project is a exciting and troubling project. It is proposed for city-owned land inside Prince Rupert boundaries, so we decide if we want it, and if so, under what conditions. Whatever the new council decides, it will have significant consequences on taxes and on jobs and on our environment. As I always do, I will listen to thoughtful presentations, do my own research, and question until I am satisfied that we have all possible information. Then I will make a decision. The fact is, that's how I make all my decisions. I'm conscientious, but unfortunately not infallible. I can work with anyone, but my interests are to ensure that everyone in Prince Rupert has a place in the discussion. I'm fiercely proud of our community, and I want to see it grow. Not only with port development and work and jobs, but socially and culturally as well.
Ms. Gina Garrow.
I've decided to run for council for a third term because I'm passionate about my community. I've worked long and hard the last 6 years. I've learned a lot of things that I never thought I would ever want to even learn about. LNG is one of them. I know more about LNG than I care to know. I think it's important that as a councillor, you learn as much as you can in order to be able to make the decisions that face our community. This is a time of great opportunity and a time of great challenges. I've sat on quite a few boards and committees. I have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience. And November 15th, I'm asking you for your support for a seat on council, as I think that I can bring that experience and that knowledge to help move this community forward and to help with those challenges, to make this community a healthy place for families to grow, for people to age in place, and for a holistic approach to making this community the place that it was once and that it can be again. Thank you.
And now to our panelist questions. And question number 1 from Mary Bartlett of CFNR. Mary?
There's been plenty of talk over the overstretched services and Prince Rupert's $258 million infrastructure deficit. How will you find ways to fix the aging sewer, water, and road systems, and what will you prioritize?
Mr. Randhawa?
I will look for the grants available through higher level of government and apply for grants, as they are the ones that will benefit from most in end from taxation. And I also be looking for municipal finance authority, if we can borrow money from them. And I will look if we already had like any money, we borrow money from them, and when that one is due. And I'll be looking for that. And also, I'll be looking to new industry, encourage new industry, and we can get some higher taxes from that.
Okay, thank you. A reminder, 1 minute answers to the questions, please. Mr. Wade Nish.
Well, I think there's no way possible that our tax base can obviously fix the infrastructure in this town. As I was reading those old newspapers the other day, I saw a piece of bulletin that was put out by the city of Prince Rupert that said that the bridge on 6th Avenue was going to be closed for 2 months, from June till August. So obviously nothing's changed, and we need to move forward and try and find other ways. We need to lobby the government. They want to spend $500 million on a bridge down in the Lower Mainland, then they can easily put $250 million forward for us to fix up our town. If they want to make this the gateway to Canada and the gateway to Asia, then we need to lobby them to put forward the money in order to make all the improvements we need, because there's no way that we will ever do it from what we collect in taxes. It doesn't matter how big this town grows.
Ms. Thorkelson.
So far, Prince Rupert has attempted to maintain its infrastructure, and I think the last speaker was right. We are barely able to maintain the infrastructure that we have, and taxes have been going up every year to try to just maintain the infrastructure that we have. What we need to do is find sources of income. Obviously, we're hoping for new income from regional fair share agreements and from local increases in industry. I think that we are going to have to be part of the Canadian demand to fed the federal government to put money in as well. That's the only way we're going to answer it.
Thank you. Ms. Garrow.
This is a difficult question to tackle in 1 minute. I think the main thing we need to look at right now, and I've lobbied and worked really hard with council and staff, and the dam over on Woodworth Lake is our number one priority. If we don't have water in our community, we don't have a community. And I think we need to partner with some of our stakeholders in the community, some of the larger industries, and talk to them about what this infrastructure means to their success of their businesses. So I think if we can work together on a common ground with our stakeholders and anybody else in the community who's using a large amount of our infrastructure, that we can work together and build some bridges and find some way of coming together to help with these deficits. Nothing is going to happen quickly, but we need to start and make a plan for the future.
Mr. Miro.
In very different ways, what everyone is saying is we need more money. It's really that simple. And with a $30 million a year budget, we can't address $258 million deficit. But grants aren't the only solution. What the city needs to do is develop a strategy to grow our tax base. No business ever expects to earn more money every year just by raising their prices. Businesses devote time and energy to marketing and developing new products and services and finding efficiencies. It's time for the city to do the same thing. By developing a strategy to grow our tax base, we can make it easier for businesses to locate here, to grow here and expand, and ultimately take the tax burden, or lessen the tax burden on homeowners and existing businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Thanks. I think obviously, we need to determine what the priorities are and start to allocate resources first on those things that are most important. And I think the second thing is we always need to run a tight budget and make sure we're not squandering public funds on unnecessary things in any way. No patronage, nothing. We need to keep a tight budget, but I think ultimately it's on us. I mean, there might be government grants or whatever from the federal or provincial governments, but it's up to us to usher in a port-related economy. And that doesn't mean a container port. That means industries like destuffing, transshipment, freight forwarding, and et cetera. We need to be the ones that map out those companies, those industries that exist in other great port cities. We need to tap them on the shoulder. We need to show them our value proposition, and we need to start bringing those companies here to Prince Rupert so that they can expand our industrial tax base, and there's a lot more people employed at high-paying jobs that can contribute to property taxes. So ultimately, it's on us. We need to go out and get it. We need to solve the problems by ourselves.
Thank you. Mr. Kinney.
Thank you. I sat in Christy Clark's office with city councilors at a UBCM. She said and she promised that money would come to Prince Rupert to help us because of the growth that we're going to be feeling. So I feel our mayor, whomever it may be, and the CAO of the city go down and talk with her, show how much we have, how much are you going to give us? It's time they pitched in because of the heavy load that's going to be coming with the LNG. And I also feel we have to open our doors and say welcome to any business. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, it's a two-pronged situation. First, we have to identify and come up with a management plan to fix what has to be fixed on the present and long-term issues of our infrastructure. And once we've identified that and what it's going to cost us, then we go to the two levels of government that have focused on Prince Rupert and caused a lot of the attention and probably in the future a lot of the, I guess you could say, hardships we're going to have on our infrastructure, which is the federal government through the port and the province through LNG. And I believe both those governments have to step up to the plate and help us out with this issue. They're the ones that are causing a lot of the focus here. They're the ones that want Prince Rupert to be the gateway for Canada, so the rest of Canada should pitch in at different levels of government and help us out. Thank you.
And Ms. Ashley.
Well, I would start by getting staff developing an asset management plan. We already know what our needs are and how much they cost. We need for them to identify what the most critical infrastructure needs are. And then, quite frankly, we need to find the money. We need to get creative, find new sources of revenue. We can't necessarily rely on the government for everything. Doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to lobby the province, especially for our fair share of industry revenues. But we need to forge partnerships with other local governments, First Nations, businesses, industry to increase our chance of success. We also need to lobby higher levels of government to stop their interference with local government taxation. If they weren't interfering by different levels of taxation, we would have $4 million more per year in our budget. We need to complete a cost-benefit analysis of all the city assets and liabilities. We need to get more property on the tax roll. Capitalize on investment in our region, review our policies to encourage more development, And above all, we need to work together. We got to get everybody on the same page, and we got to be creative and find new ways, because we have to help ourselves.
Thank you. Our second question, panel question from the panel. Mr. Sean Thomas of the Northern View.
Thank you. So when it comes to the budget process, how would you balance the responsibility that comes with the infrastructure deficit with the services that create the quality of life that people in Prince Rupert enjoy, such as recreation and the library?
Mr. Cunningham.
Could I get the question repeated?
Yes.
It didn't make sense to me.
Down, but basically, how do you balance having to pay for the infrastructure while also maintaining the services such as recreation and the library that contribute to the quality of life for people in Prince Rupert?
I would look to, if and when LNG comes in, or any other large proponents come in, I would like to see them kicking in and giving some of our rec center, golf course, racquetball center, curling, library, museum, whoever, have them contribute in a way to it. The only way we can contribute and get a better quality of life through this is to increase the tax base, which is a problem, and we've just got to be open to every type of business we can find, whether it's supporting the port and finding other logistics or something, you know, say distribution, cold storage, anything like that, and have these properties on city land, so we are collecting the taxes and they're not capped by the province through the port. If we just have to find more money to get all these things working better. And the city was built for 22,000 people, and 12,000 people are paying for it right now, and it's really being a burden.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoral.
What I think about the budget process is that consistency breeds productivity, and every year the budget process has been completely different. And there's been some opportunities for public engagement, and there's been some opportunities to submit questions. But ultimately, council is responsible for the budget every year, and every year we should be hearing from the community to understand what people's priorities are. It shouldn't be, we're the ones that are elected to make the hard decisions, but we need to understand where every cross-section of the community views where we should be spending our money every year. So to me, that means hosting regular town hall meetings. That means being open and providing better information every year on where tax dollars are being spent, so citizens can make informed decisions and provide more thorough feedback to council to make that ultimate decision on the budget.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Thanks. Well, obviously, if you've got a budget, you need to allocate certain bands or percentages to things like recreation or whatever else. And I think that, you know, again, if you're having a problem with the budget, the best thing to do is look at what's not necessary and remove it from the budget. And then you're going to release extra cash into the budget if you do that. I think as well, you know, like the only way we're going to engineer ourselves out of budget issues, like how do we pay for the library or whatever else, is to introduce new businesses into Prince Rupert. And again, it comes down to us. It's us that have to go out and talk to those companies and those industries that should be here that aren't here, invite them here, get them doing business here, and we increase our tax base, our corporate and our personal, or the property tax base. It's all about getting more taxpayers in here. We need to fill the city up with more high-paying jobs by bringing companies in, and I think that's the solution to our budget problems.
Thank you. Ms. Thorkelson.
The budgeting process is always a difficult process because nobody wants to pay any more taxes, and yet the cost of living goes up, and the city, nobody has any control over that. So in order to maintain the tax, in order to maintain what you have in the city right now, you have to either find new industry, you have to get grants that we don't already have, and we have to increase taxes, or all three. One of the things that we have tried to do is try to get, for a short-term stopgap thing, is to get large corporations to support infrastructure that's already there. So such as the X terminal room at the library for children, or the port weight room. And so that we can try to conserve our own money by advertising some of the businesses in town.
Thank you. Mr. Kinney.
Thank you. I feel with a lot of the things we have going with our recreation and our different, our theater here and stuff, but we're going to have to do some cutting. And in order to not put the taxes up, just let them get out there, the ones we've hired, and do some work and find a way to make money to run these organizations. And that's the people that we hire to do it, and that's what we expect of them. And we also have to start working with our First Nation communities, because they also come in and they use our facilities too. And I think we have to sit down and do some real talking about all working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nish.
Well, I think our budget process obviously hasn't worked for the last 20 years. When you fail to collect taxes from big industry because you say, don't worry about it, they'll pay it next year. And put us in a position where we now have to take land back and put it, like the mill. I hate talking about the mill. I want it to be so over. But we need obviously business and industry to move in to increase our taxes. But we have a lot of things to pay for, and we want more taxes, but we also have to learn to make those hard decisions and cut things that we don't want to cut. Unfortunately, I will apologize, last year I was a little hard on the gardener. As much as I think the flowers are beautiful in this town, sometimes, you know, those are the things that need to be cut. I mean, you can't rent a Porsche when you can't make your payments on your house.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ashley.
Well, again, this is a big question, but when we're looking at budget, I think the first thing we need to do is we actually need to identify what the people of Prince Rupert think are the most important things, and the only way we can do that is by opening up the budget process more. I think we should be having brainstorming sessions, invite everybody in, allow for many different opportunities for input so we can get as many suggestions as possible. I mean, the more brains, the better. We need to start looking at possibly offering incentives for employees or people for giving us money-saving ideas. If we're saving money, that makes sense. Look for help from higher levels of government. We need to support sustainable industry. Look for new sources of revenue. Pursuing the Tsimshan Access Project so we can get some of the ferry costs off of our back. Selling city lots for development, creating targeted savings that people know are going to be spent on infrastructure. Those are the kinds of things that I think we need to be doing.
Thank you. Mr. Randhawa.
Yeah, I have a little experience on budget. In India, I was auditor in Accountant General Office, and here currently I'm sitting on the Northwest Community College Finance and Audit Committee. That's what we do. We review the budget. So here again, I will review and scrutinize the budget and drill down the numbers, how those numbers developed. And at the end of the day, again, we need funds. We need new industry. We have to encourage new industry to rebuild our tax base, to give quality life to our citizen. We can't keep on increasing our house tax. We need to look new industry here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Randhawa. Our final panel question comes from Mr. George T. Baker of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Thanks, Tom.
Oh, sorry, Gina.
Okay. With the city...
1 second, please. You didn't get to... Oh, I have you checked off. Carry on, Gina. Reply, please.
Sean, could you please
Sure. Essentially, when it comes to the budgeting process, how do you weigh the needs of infrastructure and that type of spending against the services that create the quality of life, such as recreation in the library?
The budget process is one of the most difficult processes that the council has to go through. Thankfully, we have fabulous staff in place, and Cory Bauman does an excellent job of explaining the budget to us. It's a process that takes a while to get through, and with 6, 7 people in the room trying to decide what that balance is, you know, you never get what it is that you want to begin with. But by working as a group, we try to get the best and the best balance that's there. Unfortunately, through the last few years, we've had struggles, but with these times ahead of us, with the taxes increasing, we're able to put more money into our, say, our swimming pool and start bringing it back up to the standard that it was. So, the budget process is so important, and it's very time consuming, and I did appreciate 2 years ago when we went to the public and asked them for their help, and I really think that's a good engagement piece to help find out where the community is.
Thank you. And my apologies. And once again, back to Mr. George T. Baker of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
We'll try this again. With the city facing limited funds and BC's LNG and Housing Minister Rich Coleman promising no construction of social housing until a final investment decision is made on an LNG terminal in Prince Rupert, what can City Council do to help those looking for an affordable place with a limited income?
Long time to write it down. Ms. Torkelson.
I find all of these questions difficult to answer in a minute, but we have met 3 times with BC Housing on the issue of trying to find both supportive, low-cost housing and seniors housing. And BC Housing received a grant or some money from the federal government to the tune of $30 million, and the provincial government put in another $30, so $60 million, but they couldn't tell us what the priority was going to be. The next thing you hear is you hear an announcement in Vancouver about increased and affordable housing. It needs to be made clear, and council's been trying to do it, but it needs to be made clear that we need affordable housing in Prince Rupert, and we need it now, and that's what we talked about. We don't need to wait until the crises. We need it now. Every day we have more people come through the Union Hall that don't have any places to live. I think Christine and I are up to 15 people now in the last half year. We need to find some decent, affordable housing, and BC Housing, it's their mandate, and we need to put the provincial and federal government's feet to the fire.
Thank you. Mr. Kinney.
Thank you. Like I said, we had meetings at the Crest with the real estates, the contractors, builders. We had a whole day session, and it was very, very productive. And everything that came out of it was we need housing badly. So some say don't, bother with the government and that. We've got to have them on our side, and we've got to get going on it, because we have phone calls day and night about people who can't afford any apartment, nothing, and those that can't even afford to find a place, period. We've just got to get together, and we have to work to get this housing done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Randhawa.
Yeah, I will look into the option with BC Housing and senior level of governments for ask for more funding for low-cost housing. And again, I will encourage new industry here, and our local people we train to get those jobs, and that can solve our housing problem a little too, if everybody start making good money here, and they can afford housing too.
Thank you. Mr. Nish.
I believe that obviously BC Housing would be a bonus to get them to start building some more units, but I do believe that other options would be maybe tax incentives towards builders who want to build rental units. Obviously, you see the last cul-de-sac that was built in this community, they had grand dreams of building 16 executive homes, and they ended up building 5 homes and had a hard time selling them. People need to look at more lower cost options, and if we give an incentive to a big builder company to come in and say, okay, let's build 100 townhouses, more affordable housing, and give them a break on their taxes. We're not making any money on that land yet, so why not wait another year and give them the incentive to want to build that? That's what we need to do. We need to bring those people in and offer them incentives.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, this is a subject that I think needs a lot of study, or has had a lot of study, I should say, and we've got to start doing some action with it. I know that there's a lot of people that can't afford where they're living now. There's rent evictions, or rent evictions, I should say. And again, we've got to get BC Housing on the line with us. The problem's here now. The problem's only going to get worse when any of these projects start. We're going to have to work with the proponents to try and utilize the work camps so people aren't going out into the community and driving rents up even more, because a lot of it's speculative right now. I think the city has to reach out to community groups, senior levels of government, and nonprofit organizations to address the level of housing we've got. BC Housing has to help us, and it's a subject I'm serious enough about that I'm traveling to Vancouver on November 16th on my own time to attend the BC Nonprofit Housing Association convention to see how we can tie in with nonprofit organizations and get something done.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Ms. Ashley.
Well, obviously, we need to continue to pressure higher levels of government, but the fact is that regardless of all of that, we have a shortage of affordable housing now, and that's only going to increase. So we need to figure out what we can do. So the question of what we can do, well, I think one of the things, and I know that other people have thought of it, is having a housing commission. It's something we've talked about at council, because the housing commission can kind of take the information that our staff has identified, and then they can involve all the different stakeholders and actually find out what our current needs are, what our future housing needs are, and then they can develop action plans and make recommendations to council. That's the kind of thing, like actual thing that council can do. We can offer city lots to developers. We can partner with industry to support shelters, and we can, change some policies and bylaws that can maybe affect, like secondary suites and making those a little bit more available. But we need to keep looking for options, and again, I say it's by working with the community.
Thank you, Ms. Ashley. Mr. Peterson.
Thanks. I think, we're not alone. I think any community that is experiencing growth or an influx of people is going to experience the things like Kitimat or other resource towns up north in BC, and I think that we should, look at best practices and see how other communities are dealing with this, and just basically follow best practices. And I think that there's other things we can do locally as a community, and one of the things, for example, in the Lower Mainland, there's a lot of houses with secondary suites, and I think that zoning should be changed so that bigger houses can be opened up for two family dwellings, not one, and you're going to create a lot of housing there, a lot of basement suites or downstairs suites, for example. I think as well, look, if we're short of housing, affordable housing, we need to, develop condos or develop row housing or something like that people can afford to buy, or people can buy and rent out to low-income people if that's the case. But I think we just need to create those spaces, basically. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Mayoral.
I think it's important to note that housing is the jurisdiction of the province, but that's not to say that the city can't play a crucial role in starting to address this affordable housing shortage here in Prince Rupert now. And so I think there's a number of best practices and strategies that a lot of these candidates have mentioned that we can use. Not just waiving property taxes for a year or two, but we could also waive development approval fees and charges that happen when people want to build. We could also develop an affordable housing policy to incorporate in our official community plan, which hasn't been updated since 2007. We can also streamline the development approval process to fast-track approvals with a housing or an affordable housing component. But ultimately, what the city needs to do is collaborate with local partners who have the knowledge, the expertise, and the data that we need to make the best decisions. So, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Garrow.
This is a huge concern of mine. I've sat down with our city planner numerous times to go over what needs to be done. We started 2 years ago to do our own planning on this because we realized that the province was not on board with us and that we were ahead of the curve when it came to trying to plan for the future. We looked at Kitimat and Paris and we decided we didn't want to be the way that they were with their housing. So in order to stay ahead of the curve, we held our housing workshop, which was very successful, and I think the next step would be to form our commission, or some kind of housing commission, and also there's partnerships that can be made with nonprofit societies that BC Housing is willing to help work with that in order to get some type of social housing here for our community. It's a key undertaking and something that's very important to this community, and I will work very hard to try to find solutions.
Thank you. And now for our final question of the evening, as selected by our hosts and organizers. Why are you the best candidate for being elected to council in Prince Rupert at this civic election? Ms. Garrow.
I'm very passionate about my community. I was born and raised here. 6 generations of my family live here. I have learned so much, and I think that I bring a big value to the table. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I use a lot of common sense. I try to find common ground. I have a lot of respect for my other council members who sit on council with me. Everybody is entitled to their opinions, and from those opinions we learn from each other, and we learn to make good decisions. We don't always make the right decisions, but sometimes if you are afraid to make decisions, sometimes a bad decision is better than no decision at all. But I'm not afraid to make some mistakes, but I don't want to make too many mistakes. But when you work with 6 other people who work with you, you usually come to some kind of common ground, and I really enjoy that process, and it's on November 15th. I'll let Gina hear on.
Thank you, Gina. Ms. Ashley.
Thank you. Well, why am I running again? Because I still think I have something to offer. It's been an honor and a privilege serving people as a city councilor, and it's a responsibility I take very seriously. I believe in being prepared and asking questions so that when I make decisions, I have the best information possible. I believe that the experience that I've gained over the last 2 terms has given me the knowledge and skills that I really need to help council make the decisions we're going to need as we face the future. We're going to need to balance what we have to do in the community in terms of infrastructure deficit, but we're also going to have to meet the needs that people want in our community, and I believe that I'm one of the people that can help council do that. I believe in Prince Rupert. I think we have a very bright future, and I would really like to be a part of that. So I would ask that on November 15th, you please vote for me. And if you want to know more information, because we've only had 1 minute, please call me, email me, or check out my website. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Niche.
Well, the mayor candidates were talking earlier about a pause button. Well, I believe the pause button went on about 20 years ago and nothing's changed since. Just to live in this town, you had to survive to live in this town for the last 20 years. It's been a struggle for most, and those that were lucky enough to survive and stay, we're still here. I'm still here. I did what I had to do to survive. It's about spending money wisely. Last year, I was probably, when I ran for the by-election, I was a little more narrow-minded as far as I said, no taxes up, no taxes up. I've had enough of the taxes going up, services going down. Now I've seen it from a few more perspectives, a lot of people talking to me over the last year, and I think I've learned a lot about just things such as housing and other issues, and I feel that, Some said I was too young last year. Well, now I've got a couple other younger guys than me, so I'm almost 40, so I think I'm the one for the job.
Thank you. Mr. Randalla.
I like to be accessible, approachable, and open to all community members, ensuring that their voices are heard by City Council. As a family man, I'm concerned about our quality of life in our community. I believe that local government have a duty to press all senior levels of governments for improvements to quality of life for children, homeless, seniors, and all our citizens. Prince Rupert gave me a lot so far, and I like to give it back. Please vote for me on November 15. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miro.
Although there might be some in the audience who disagree, I think my age is actually what helps me or believe that I'm the best candidate. Some people think that youth is just perceived and experience. I wholeheartedly disagree. I think I offer a fresh perspective to some old problems facing City Hall. I'm a lifelong Rupertite. I don't intend on going anywhere. This place is my home. This community has made me who I am, and I want to be a part of shaping the next generation. I also offer really unique insight where my background, my education is in community development, which is exactly, I came back to Prince Rupert at the perfect time to see all this growth on our doorstep. But also I do have a lot of experience in my short time on earth. I've worked at City Hall. I've done 2 contract stints as grant writer where I was able to solicit a few $1 million for different projects and actually won an international award for my work. I also currently manage all of the business entities for the Gitmukmukanishka Society here in Prince Rupert, so I'm not really your average 24-year-old, and I think that offers a tremendous asset to the community.
Ms. Thorkelson.
It's such a pleasure to listen to somebody who's enthusiastic and young, and I guess I'm on the other end of that stick.
There's a few of us, yeah.
I wanted to say that it's an exciting time to be in Prince Rupert, and it's an exciting time to be on council. You know, those of us who have been on, I've been on since 2005, we've been on a holding pattern, trying to explain to people why our facilities are falling apart, why we can't fix our infrastructure, and now is the time where we can negotiate some deals to prepare our city for the future. The next year, we're on the cusp of moving ahead, and I would certainly like to be part of that. I think I can bring lots of enthusiasm, probably as much as Blair, to the job. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Joy. Mr. Kinney.
Did you say Mr. Peterson?
Oh, Mr. Kinney.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to be on council and to serve you, the citizens of Prince Rupert, for the past 12 years. And I would like to go one more term to see our things go through that we've worked very hard for. I'm there to listen to you, and I have many people come to me and I take it back to council. Some say I'm very quiet or too quiet, but I think you learn more by listening than by sitting there mouthing all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinney. Mr. Cunningham.
I don't know if I should take that personally or not. I like to think that I bring an everyday common sense approach to council meetings. I'm going to continue to ask questions and challenge council and staff to achieve a higher level of service for the community. I'm definitely not afraid to challenge the status quo. I've approached a few issues that had lagged around for a while and got them solved. One of the things I did within the first 2 months of being on council was put a resolution on the floor and got the city and the port talking. I can't take credit for the PILT decision being settled, but city staff at least got to sit down and talk with them, and that was the beginning. I brought Pinnacle to the council chambers, and they had started to interact with the community. There was some results from that. And I am definitely out there anytime to talk to anyone. And like I say, being on council is a two-way street. We can't make decisions unless you give us the input to make them. And there's a lot of very important decisions to be made, and I really think the citizens of Prince Rupert have to step up to the plate and start giving us input.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Okay, thank you. I think the question is actually wrong. I don't have to be the best person for council. I have to be one of the best 6 people for council. There's 6 of us after all, right? So, but you know, I can't claim to be a 6th generation Rupertite, but I am a Rupertite. This is my home. I have lived in different places in major port cities. I've seen how great cities operate. I have outside perspective. I have something to offer that I don't think any of the other candidates have to offer, which is a fresh perspective, or at least an outside perspective. And I think that that can be a very, very valuable thing at this juncture in our history when we are trying to accomplish and create a great city, a great port city, grow a great port city. I'd love to be part of council and contribute to that growth and development, so please vote for me on election day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all, and would you join me in thanking all of our councillor candidates for their participation in our forum this evening. Again, I encourage you, if you've never heard or discussed topics that are of interest to you, to please engage the councillors as you can over this next 10 days as we prepare for the election. Thank you to Shelley Huddlestone and Heather McLeod, our timekeepers. Our media panel of Mary Bartlett, CFNR, Sean Thomas of the Northern View, and George T. Baker of the CDC. Our hosts, the Prince Rupert and District Chamber of Commerce and the Prince Rupert Labor Council. And our sponsors, Prince Rupert Grain and the BC Northern Real Estate Board, and to the staff and volunteers of the Performing Arts Centre for their assistance in staging the forum. And a very special thank you to the person who's done the most work in putting the forums together, both last night in Port Edward and here tonight in Prince Rupert, Leanne Enns, the Executive Director of the Prince Rupert and District Chamber of Commerce, for her work in setting up these all candidates forums, which is not the easiest job, I'll tell you. All our candidates will be available in the foyer to meet and answer any further questions you may have. And finally, please take the time to vote for the candidate of your choice on Election Day. General voting day will be open to qualified electors of the City of Prince Rupert on Saturday, November the 15th, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. at the Jim Ciccone Civic Center. And to bring our forum to a close, I now call upon Mr. John Farrell of the Prince Rupert and District Chamber of Commerce? Yes, okay. And Mr. Calvin Thompson of the Prince Rupert Labor Council. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you all. Thank you for staying to the end. I'll just be a few minutes. We have one presentation before we leave tonight. This stage has seen a lot of action at this time of year. Lots of candidates come and go. Some get elected, some don't. But there's been one institution in the last 20 years whose booming voice has been heard across this stage. He comes from the shores of Newfoundland, and he has been our moderator for 20 years, and he approaches it with grace and humor and amazing organization skills, and that's Tom Harvey. And we just found out tonight that Tom is hanging up his shingle as moderator, so we wanted to thank him for his efforts and all of his great volunteer service. So we're presenting a beautiful photograph of the aerial view of Prince Rupert by artist and photographer Lonnie Wishart.
The only way a community can improve if people step forward and participate in the events of the community. And over these last 20 or 25 years that I've done this, it has been my entire pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you and good evening.